Hi everybody, Matt here again, and in addition to collecting vinyl, I also collect movies, obviously. And this video is about the Beatles' Let It Be. And I was lucky enough to find this on VHS. I didn't put the tape in there, that's somewhere else. Want to keep it safe, didn't want it sliding out. But today's video is whether or not Let It Be should have a re-release. And for those of you that may not be aware, Let It Be did have an official release back when it first came out, and shows the band during what was then known as the Get Back sessions. And in the Get Back sessions, what they did was they filmed at a place called Twickenham Studios in England. And what they did was, the idea behind the film was that they would spend all their time at Twickenham, they would write and create new songs, and then in the film with a big concert where they would play all this new music. That was the idea. Unfortunately, that's not exactly what happened. At the time, the Beatles were in a very strained relationship. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. Every band member was kind of pulling in their own direction, and you can imagine that didn't really work out well, and tensions were already high when people showed up. You gotta take it from their perspective. You're in the biggest band in the world, yet you can't stand the people that you're in the band with, and you're just trying to keep it together, but at the same time, you do want that artistic freedom. So it was very, very tense from the get-go. Add to that just the personal stuff between them. I mean, it was just an absolute mess. Eventually, they ended up at Abbey Road recording more stuff and getting up on the roof and doing the now famous rooftop concert, and there you go, the rest is history. The film was released in theaters, as I said before, and it did have a very, very limited release on VHS and Laserdisc back in the 1980s. These items, such as this tape, have become really big collector's items because they didn't make a whole lot of them. The quality is not that great, and people have made DVD bootlegs and digital bootlegs from those sources, and they don't look that good. They're pretty grainy and pretty dirty. Sound quality's not that great. There's been a lot of talk that the film will be re-released at some point. This goes all the way back to the anthology broadcast that they did, and what they did for that was they went back and they cleaned up the negatives and restored the footage of the rooftop concert and put that in there, as well as some other bits. And it looked really good, and people really liked seeing it. And there's been talk of re-releasing the whole movie. That goes back to when they did Let It Be Naked, the re-release of the Let It Be album. And apparently from insider sources they said, we were cleaning up the footage and we found some stuff that we really don't want to release. And there's been a rumor that Paul and Ringo have said this will not be released in our lifetime. You will not see it again. Although in a recent interview, Paul kind of hinted at it in a kind of a roundabout way. Today, I'm going to talk about the reasons why it should be released and the reasons why it should not be released, and I'll let you guys decide. First, I'm going to talk about why it should be released. The big reason as to why it should be released is, obviously, the fans want it. If they didn't want it, then why are there all these bootlegs? Why are people paying high prices for a Laserdisc of all things and a VHS tape? I mean, it's pretty crazy that people really do seek this stuff out. They want to see this film. The fans want it, why not give it to them? Beatles fans understand as well that it wasn't a pretty breakup. You know, we watched Anthology, we've read the books, we've heard the interviews, we know that those sessions were not happy sessions, and we understand that that is part of the narrative of the Beatles' history, was that the breakup wasn't exactly the best. And the restoration that they did for Anthology looked so good. It sounded good, it was crisp, it was clean. People really like seeing that. The other thing is that it shows the human side of the group. You know, it's one of those things, it's good to see your heroes and these people we idolize humanized a lot of times, to see them as they really are, and that's definitely the case when it comes to this particular film. And it exists. You know, it's not like it's a lost film, we don't know what happened to it. It exists. It's sitting there in the archives collecting dust, just waiting to be shown again. And then obviously the last one, the money. If they released it, it would be a massive release because obviously people have been waiting for it, people are clamoring for it, they really want this release, so obviously the money is there. Now I'm going to take the other side and explain possibly why it should not be released. It shouldn't be released because it is very hard to watch. It's like watching a marriage breakup, or a relationship just in general. It is just very awkward to sit there and watch this stuff happening. You're very much a fly on the wall for a lot of it, and it can be kind of difficult because we have these images in our minds of these people, of these characters, of these legends, and to see them, you know, kind of bickering amongst themselves is kind of hard to watch. And it's not even necessarily, you know, knockdown, drag out fights, but it's still, you still get a little cringy watching it. The real highlight is the concert, which was shown in anthology. So the rest of the film is just kind of, you know, odd clips and bits of songs and things like that. And there are some really cool moments, but for me, the highlight was always the concert. That's an anthology, so, I mean, really, that's all I personally need. Even if they just came out with just the concert on the rooftop, I'd be happy with that in a re-release. You know, they own it, too. That's another thing, is that as fans, we don't own that. We don't have a say in it. And they have the right to say, no, we don't want to release this. And the way to think of it is like this. Imagine that, imagine the most awkward, you know, unflattering thing or event or time of your life. Imagine that's on film and people have seen it. Now imagine that you have the power to make them never see it again. Would you or would you not, you know, do that? And that's kind of the situation here. It is an unflattering image of these people, of the band. And so it's one of those things. They have the power to say, you know, no. And I think a lot of people in that position, if they had, you know, evidence of their most unflattering moment and they had the power to make that go away, probably would make it go away. And so I have to respect them as artists for doing that. My verdict is that it should be released. You know, I understand that it's, you know, kind of awkward to watch, and it's kind of a cringy thing, and I understand their perspective on it as artists too, but it was released once before. They obviously didn't have a problem with it back then, even though they say they did. They've put it on tape and Laserdisc. You know, we don't have tapes and Laserdiscs anymore. We need that DVD. We need that Blu-ray. And again, we understand as Beatles fans. But obviously, I'm just one opinion. I'm just one voice. I want to know what you guys think. So in the comments below, go ahead and let me know what you personally think. Should it be released or should it not be released? And I'd like to hear from you guys. I'd like to get feedback from you folks. That's all I have to say about the Let It Be film. I will see you guys next time.